Welcome to another Stampscapes quick card. I think it's going to be quick. We'll see. We have a piece of 8.5 by 5.5 blue cardstock. Okay, it's kind of like a blue foil. It's like a, it's like a, I don't know, like a brushed aluminum blue. Okay, I couldn't think of the description there. Not super shiny, and I don't know. It came in a assortment pack with my blue holographic foil. Okay, so these types of foils, these types of metallic cardstocks are really fun to stamp on. But sometimes when you start getting dark like this, black ink isn't going to show up very well on them, so we have to start thinking about doing a reverse style of impression, meaning white on dark. Alright, so I'm using the white Brilliance ink, and that is an ink that's a fast-drying pigment ink, water-based, that can dry on this type of cardstock, okay? Alright, this is the Winter Snowy Brook stamp right here. My stamps have been conceived, for the most part, to be stamped in black. Okay, so I'm giving a reverse impression, so what should be black is going to be white here. So I found that, my stamps work pretty well, though, in reverse, with just about everything. The easy one are trees, you snap in white and it's like a frosted tree or something like that. But some of these other ones, I've kind of wondered if they would work or not because of all of my shading conventions and everything like that are going to be reversed. So it doesn't make sense sometimes, but in terms of just holding up the form, I'm holding this down a little bit longer so that the Brilliance ink will set up and everything and transfer onto the paper. But I think the forms read enough to where, that makes sense as this little creek. Maybe not without some additional forms on here, just looking at that, but I'll show you what we'll do on this scene right here. So this is what I call kind of impression stamping. Now, everything's making impressions, okay, but I'm talking about like, completing the entire card more so with just the impressions. That's because I'm not going to be coloring on something like this. We're not going to, stamp this out and color it with colored pencils or alcohol markers or something like that. There are some other things you can do with some additional inks, but for the most part, you're getting everything down just in the impressions themselves, okay? This is a tree right here, the winter ash, and the trees look really great just stamped in reverse on, decolored cardstocks. Now that's a little bit damp there still, so you have to be careful not to smear that. If you do smear an area, just wipe it off with a paper towel or something like that and do it again. This isn't like stamping with a solvent ink or like a permanent ink, like a StazOn or something of that sort. Okay, get a good amount of pressure. It doesn't mean, you don't need a ton of pressure, but you want good, even pressure over the stamp. And then you just kind of, making sure it's making contact, and then just let it transfer a little bit. Let the ink start to set up, okay? And okay, so if you don't do that long enough, sometimes, not with every paper, but sometimes you lift it and with that ink still in liquid form, kind of, for the most part, it can work like a vacuum and remove a lot of that ink that you've wanted to transfer onto the surface like that. Okay, see how that works pretty good? All right, I didn't stamp out there too much, but I can always fill that in. By the way, I'm using this material called Tack and Peel on my acrylic block to make this temporary mounting of my unmounted rubber stamp. I'm going to stamp this one a little bit higher up on the composition, just so that looks like farther back and not so monotonous. Monotonous or symmetrical from, you know, this impression to this one on this side. Now I could have, you know, covered up some of this trunk here to make it look like, you know, more of the tree is in the snow, but I'm just going to do the whole thing here. All right, just see that right there? Okay, now I'll show you some little areas of what I'm talking about. See, like right there, it didn't stamp out too much. And like right in there, there's that little hole in there. I mean, it's nothing obtrusive. I think that looks fine like that. But if you do that, if I didn't kind of hold that down and then lift like that, more of it could have looked like that, okay? Now, there's other things you can do. We can fill in there with a paint pen or something like that, which I'll probably do. But otherwise, it just kind of looks like texture too, so it's really not too bad. It's like overly kind of obtrusive a look. Okay, let's fill in with some additional things. I have this little slitter guy that I'm thinking about using. Let's go with the winter brush like that. It's almost like a smaller version of the trees, you know, in terms of the shape of it. And I'll add a little foreground in here with this. On these types of surfaces, what I always try to remember to tell people is that kind of good, light, even pressure, okay? Like this. And that's just so you don't kind of skew it, you know, as you're stamping it out, because all of that ink is very surface oriented, as opposed to getting absorbed into the paper. So sometimes it's easy to kind of skew it. You know, you stamp it out like that, and it's the slightest little turn like that. Okay, let's see if we can get this little character in here. Little slitter guy. I'm thinking about putting a moon in here though, but I was thinking that, well, it'd be a little guy kind of going out in the moonlight, you know? What would he be doing out like late at night? But maybe it's not that. Maybe he's going home because he was just having too much fun on the, you know, little bank right here, and he just didn't want to go inside, which is so much like it was for me growing up. Not going out sledding, but, you know, just kind of playing. After the sun goes down, we used to have to go in when the street lights turned on sometimes. But sometimes we'd be playing out in the streets, whatever, football, baseball, that type of thing, out in the middle of the street, under the street lamps. The little bats would come out, attracted to the street lamps. But that's the way it was growing up back then. Okay, so let's add in that little moon up here. Maybe I should have added it in the beginning, but see, when I put this piece of paper over here, I don't want to smear that, so I'll just be careful, try not, you know, to not add too much pressure right here. Okay, so 100% cotton ball. I happen to use a different Brilliance ink here. It's the same ink, but I just use a different pad. Here's my pad right here with the C on it for cotton. Just because when you're doing this right here, you know, some of the fibers for the cotton kind of get transferred onto the pad. Now, if I'm only using this pad for cotton, it's okay if there's some fibers down there, but eventually you have to kind of scrape all the fibers off, you know, right before you're about to re-ink or something like that. This is a 1-inch hole punch right here that I'm making my moon out of. And we have our little moon right there. I think that makes for a fun type of moon like that. And now, as all this ink's kind of drying on here and setting up, let's grab my toothbrush here, and I'm scanning my desk here for my Dr. Martin's Bleed Proof White, which is a opaque white watercolor paint. And I just used it last night, so some of this paint should still be kind of wet in here. So a lot of times you have to add a little bit of water and kind of mix up a little bit of it. And then I squeeze a lot of it off. Okay, I just have a little bit on the tip of my brush here. So not a huge amount. And then we give this a little bit of snowfall, like this. Now, this represents snowfall as opposed to stars or something like that. It could be stars and snowfall, but I just splatter paint it over the whole thing. I don't want to go crazy with it, but yeah, you can give it a pretty decent amount. I just do a little bit at a time to get a feel for how much is being added at any given time. So I never go like zip, across there. Oh, there you could, if you're really, comfortable with the process and you want to do like a huge splattering of it. You want to get a little bit of motion into it, like maybe you're doing a Milky Way or something like that. Although with my Milky Ways, I usually go kind of a little bit more methodical as well. But do it however you want. Okay, now I'm looking for my white paint pen. Here we go. It's right in front of me. And, okay, this is an acrylic white paint pen. This acrylic paint pen, all this right here is a little bit moist still. So as I start using this, some of this pigment ink might start clogging my pen, but, just get it flowing again by doing a little scribble. So I'm going to just go in here and just do a little bit of some additional snowfall on some of these tree limbs. Like I said, this white is still a little bit wet, but this pen here, these acrylic pens flow pretty well, so it's transferring onto that. If this was a little bit dry or not flowing as well, what you might be doing more so than transferring white paint on the surfaces, you might be like scratching up, the white pigment ink that's, been applied down there and is still a little bit wet. I always used gel pens, or I used gel pens for many years, but I just find the flow of the acrylic paint pen to be more fluid than the gel pen. Because gel pens, are, they're roller balls, so they have to kind of roll on there. But these are just like a little hole on the tip there, so I get a really good flow coming out of it. Okay, so I'm adding some of this to my trees. And on the side of the tree, facing the moon, I'll put a little bit of highlight. So on this tree and this tree, it'll be on the opposite sides. They'll be on the interior side. These are things that you don't have to do, but they're the things that are kind of really fun to do and kind of add that extra little, touch to the pieces. Now these I think would look really great in silver too, or something of that sort. Now, if this is your Christmas card or doing something like this, I don't know if I'd take the time to do this, but, if it's a one-off or, if you're just doing a couple of them or whatever, 5, I don't know, whatever would be your tolerance level in terms of repeating the same thing. Some of you guys, I knew some people that made 50 Christmas cards a year. I don't know if I'd want to do like all that little highlighting with it, but maybe you emboss your trees or something like that in white or silver. That would make for a pretty quick type of thing. I would probably do like, I don't know, however long it takes for that you know, oil-based ink to dry on here. Maybe you can stamp out, I don't know, 15, 20, and then add your embossing powder or something like that. It'd be easier if you had someone to help you out, but if you're doing it by yourself, I would do it in batches. Okay, so this says peace here, and I think I have a little bit of space up here. I'm going across the moon slightly, so I'm hoping that it shows up over the moon. Stamps out a little bit lighter than the moon. The moon was just, sponged on white pigment ink, but this is like doing an impression in pigment ink, so hopefully it's a little bit thicker and more opaque. Yeah, not too bad. I think that looks okay like that. Maybe, maybe the moon would be better a little bit over the side or something like that. I don't know. Well, I don't think that looks too bad. I mean, this is just a quick and easy card right here. It's reverse impression stamping, white on dark. And, I mean, it's just another option for utilizing your pieces, you know what I mean? Just always stamping on black on lighter cardstock or something like that. You can do something like this, and sometimes it's really fun. I tend to think that splatter painting in here kind of brings everything together a little bit. You have a common texture over everything, where if I'm doing something else on another white cardstock and I'm coloring or something like that, I would tend to add in some different tones in here, just to kind of unify things a little bit more. But on this one right here, I think that texture of the the pigment ink works as kind of like a binder. It's a common texture over the whole thing. I'm adding a few little highlights in some of these rocks. Now I see it on the trees. I think that looks good. So I'm adding a little bit on my rocks here as well. All right, so just fiddling around a little bit. Half-page scene right here. 18 minutes, not too bad, for a half-page card. Let's see, we didn't use too many stamps here. 1, 2, 3, and 4 right there. Oh, I guess 5 with the piece right here. But what you do is you allow this to dry. Doesn't take too long, and then you spray seal it, okay? But give it a light spray, like a light dusting, like you go over it like, from distance, and give it a couple, sprays, and it kind of puts out a light coating. On this one, I don't think it's going to change it too much because this isn't like a super mirrored cardstock. So when you spray like the super mirrored style, it tends to look like that, like more of like a brushed aluminum. But on this one, it already looks like that. So I think it's going to, retain its characteristic or feel for the scene just like that. But here, going back to that, you just give it a light coating like that, let it seal off a little bit, let it dry for, 5-10 seconds, then hit it again with a nice light coating like that. And then you can go over, with just overall general coating again, and I think that would do it. Maybe even 2 coats would do it, but, you kind of do it nice and slowly like that. Don't just give a really thick slathering, where it's like dripping or something like that on there, okay? So standard kind of spray painting, whatever technique, you give it coats and you allow the coat to dry, or the coats to dry in between applications like that. So, all right, so quick and easy, little Christmas card like that. Mat it with something. I think that would be good. A little bit of blue or something like that, or white around on the edge. I think it would look kind of interesting. Or maybe on something like this, silver might be kind of interesting. here's a piece of silver like this, and maybe put like a little bit of a white in between. Go with something nice and thin like that. You know, I think that would look kind of interesting like that. I don't know, maybe the silver is too loud. I'm not sure. Maybe more, you know, talking about like brushed aluminum or something like that might look even better. But I don't know. I don't think silver is bad though. Oh, you can also put little crystal stars in this one or something like that. If you want a little bit more bling, if you have some glitter, you can put it, you know, down on the terrain like that, so that it's like kind of like glistening in the moonlight. If you have a wink of Stella pen, something like that might be interesting too. But I want to just keep this one nice and quick and easy, and then you can do, you know, some additional embellishments as you see fit. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks as always for tuning into the Stampscapes channel.